Hey, welcome in.
Welcome to the Arrowhead Addict podcast.
We are here coming to you live. The Kansas City Chiefs are going to the Super Bowl. You only win a Super Bowl 2 times every 5 years, right? Oh! The warm-up act is over. Let's bring in Melissa Etheridge, massive Chiefs fan. Melissa.
Super Bowl champion, 2-time Pro Bowler, and Trent Green. Trent Green, how you doing?
Hey, what's going on, guys?
And he picked it up! He picked it up! He's gonna score! And we'll see you next week, but until then, as always, go Chiefs.
Welcome to the Arrowhead Addict Podcast Tuesday edition. I am Sterling Holmes, not flustered at all, joined by Josh Brisco. You can follow him on the X at JB Brisco. Brisco, I like this. I love doing these Tuesdays now. And for everyone wondering, Matt Connor should be back at some point. He's obviously the editor-in-chief on the website, so he's been taking care of that at some point throughout the season. I'm sure he'll come back. Don't know how it's going to go. I got some questions about that. No, Matt Connor is still AA through and through, baby. He's still an addict of Arrowhead. But Brisco, I love doing this with you, baby. How you doing?
I'm doing great. The only way I could be doing better is if I was doing this with Matt instead of you. That's not even true. That's unfair, and you know that. But I think Matt is spectacular. I think you're spectacular. And as you know, I mean, I'm basically unflusterable, so you can get as flustered as you need, baby. I'm here to do an hour of radio magic with you. Our second time now doing this. I think as it becomes weekly, it's going to get right back into that kind of home stretchy kind of groove. I have been slowly losing my voice for like 2 weeks, and actually today is better than it was at any point over the weekend. So I've got some sugar-free cough drops if necessary, but I'm prepared to play through the pain, and I feel great. It's just the voice has been going for a little while now.
Well, good thing in radio and podcast, you don't really need your voice, which is obviously a good thing to have.
I went to go do a little, sorry for bragging, but on Sunday, I went and did Sunday Sound Off with KSHB 41, the illustrious Mick Schaefer and company.
He asked me first, by the way.
And I don't think that's true, but I do think we may have both gotten asked about Father's Day because it's a tough day to fill. Great crew, great show, great vibes. But as I got there, now I brought my own water. I had some cough drops in my pocket. It's the Tom and Jerry show is pretty good. I like that, Phantom. But I was prepared for that. But, you know, you're on TV, you got the lav mic on your shirt. Here we got these mics right up to our face. But I saw one of my fellow panelists as we were approaching there, and I tried to do some sort of like, "Hey man, what's up?" And it just didn't happen. It wasn't all there. So as long as I can keep it down in here, if we can do little Tuesday in this vocal range, I'm gonna be great. And only weird games at 4:30 as well. So I got a couple of hurdles to clear today, but I feel great. And it's good to see your mustachioed face.
Oh, thank you. That and the soul patch, the flavor saver.
I couldn't see that with the mic there, and it does. I think you've got to either accentuate that, bulk it out a little bit, or let it go. Because right now it looks like the memory of a soul patch.
Yeah, I need time. All right, a couple comments to get to. Gearhead, what's up? John Russell, what's up? This is what's up. Phantom, good afternoon, Chiefs Kingdom. Balloon Raccoon 3-Pete, you better believe your ass. The Tom and Jerry show is outstanding. And then I like this one from Colby Makes Photos. When do the fans get to vote for the receivers they keep? I like that. You know how electric that would be? The Justin Ross supporters going up against the Nico Remigio hive, and all of a sudden you see the
versus me and Brett Veach wearing Kadarius Toney jerseys.
you and Brett and then me just with Sky Moore going, give him one more chance, one more chance in the slot. And then, of course, there's going to be just the Cornell Powell guy. There's going to be one Cornell Powell guy.
Cornell Powell's mom is going to be like, hey, don't forget. Practice squad block Cornell Powell.
I think we should do that. Fans vote for wide receiver 5 and 6. Sorry, Dave Tobe. You get to keep your special teamers. The fans get wide receiver 5 and 6. That's what we want. Sean says, nice stash. Thank you, Sean. You're always so kind. All right, let's actually talk about that, though. We'll talk about the ring ceremony, but we kind of already hit on it right here. The Nico Remigio Hive is alive and well. Want to give a shout out to Starcade Media. They were out there covering Justin Reed's golf tournament. And they asked Dave Tobe about or who the kick returner was going to be or Nico Remigio.
Nico Remigio in general.
Nico Remigio, and he said he's probably the leader basically in the clubhouse as the kick returner.
Yeah,
which I think was a surprise. And if he's the leader as the kick returner, well, that means he's making the 53. What did you make of those comments? And it sounds like the Nico Remigio hype is getting another layer of excitement right here.
Yeah, I thought it was interesting because as you've alluded to, like that sixth receiver spot and really a lot of the kind of the last couple of spots on defense. Now this year's going to be different because the rules have changed, as we talked about last week. But the Dave Tobe final call at the bottom of the roster is a very real thing. I think that the Chiefs aren't going to keep a useless offensive player just to be a kick return guy unless that guy also happens to be Devin Hester. Like you have to have a very, very high level of success there in a limited role, which might be the Louis Rees-Zammit role this year. I don't think he's going to be a real offensive player, but could he be a special teamer? I don't know. You also have to have two kick returners back there in the return zone with the new rules this year. So I think there's a pretty good chance that, well, actually, I'll make it even more definitive. I think those two back kick return guys probably are comprised of Louis Rees-Zammit, Mecole Hardman, Nico Remigio at this point. In terms of like the first crack at those two roles, you got three guys to choose from there. The other one's probably not making the active roster. Tobe also said in that clip something like Remigio's like a lock for the practice squad or something along those lines. He said he'll make the practice squad, which is funny for two reasons, maybe three reasons. One, shout out to Dave Tobe for giving us a little peek into the roster, man. That rules. No other coaches are doing that. Number two, other teams can sign players to their active roster. Practice squad spots are not guaranteed, but I do think it's telling because other teams aren't as interested in Nico Remigio as the Chiefs are. Amir Smith-Marset last year was a little bit of an outlier, and then he ended up making like one or two big plays in Carolina. We didn't hear from him again. And the other thing just being that like Tobe is confident that he's going to have a chance to have his guys and to be able to kind of hit that watermark. I think the Remigio hype has maybe gone a smidge far in the way the offseason receiver hype always does. You can shake your head at me all you want, but you know I'm right. Where it's always Justin Ross or Amir Smith-Marset or back throughout history. Everyone has their favorite.
Maurice French. Big Maurice French guy.
Oh, Maurice French. French, if memory serves, right? You have those guys throughout history. Some of them make the roster. Very, very few of them ever actively contribute. I think there's a path for Remigio to make this team, but also, and this kind of goes back into the bigger conversation. We may have talked about this last week too. You're keeping six receivers most likely. Rashee Rice is not one of those six most likely by being suspended for the beginning of the year. And so even with the Remigio hype, even with leftover Justin Ross hype, even with Montreal Washington being another guy that I think Dave Tobe is happy to have return kicks, I still think that the most likely bottom of the wide receiver roster guys are Sky Moore, Kadarius Toney, and Mecole Hardman.
It's fascinating, and an Anonymous Mango actually, I think, brings up an interesting point.
God, I love the usernames on this show.
Yeah, these are really good.
Anonymous Mango is excellent. Sorry for interrupting.
No, it's solid. Says Tobe made it sound like wide receiver 6 battle is going to be between Nico Remigio and Mecole Hardman.
Yeah, I may have been talking about kick return battle, but I think Anonymous Mango, it's effectively the same role at that point, right?
I think so too.
I want addendum. I've interrupted you now also. I really don't feel like a guy who's losing his voice. I'm just so excited to talk to you and talk about Chiefs receivers. I'm like by the 50th minute of this show, I'm going to sound like one of the adults in Charlie Brown, which I guess I would be now because we're not kids anymore. Boy, that's kind of dark to think about. Anyway, Mecole Hardman has one thing over Nico Remigio, and he has it in almost an infinite, I guess sort of an infinite quantity, experience in the Kansas City Chiefs offense. Nico Remigio has not done this in a game. He has not done this on a field where there's a team on the opposite side of him knocking his head off or adjusting to routes or scouting for you all week long. I think especially in the absence of Rice, that familiarity is a real boon to McCole Hart.
Yeah. By the way, is it Remigio Hive? Remigio Revolution, as Anonymous Mango points out. What's the slang?
I love alliteration. So Remigio Revolution is pretty good, but I feel like there's more there because his last name is so unique. Remigio. Like there's gotta be a couple other, we gotta be able to get like a double rhyme in there somewhere.
We go where Remigio. Yeah.
But I like where your head's
close.
at.
We're close. Yeah, we're close. Remigio Rising is what producer Sean says. Sean, good call.
I like Remigio Rising. I think I like that slightly better than Remigio Revolution. I also think it's more accurate.
Lauren Shanks says bingo Remigio.
I think if we had a hard G there, I feel like that would be.
You don't hear that very often, the hard G.
I always want to make it a double G in there also.
Yeah. Ooh, Remigio's Amigos from Alan F. So
okay, the direction here is great.
We're getting somewhere.
Remigio Amigos. Nico Amigos. You can be the Nico Amigos.
We're the Remigos. The three Remigos. It's like him, McCole, and like Skymore, the three Remigos.
They're the three Remigos.
Wow.
I think
TM. We're trademarking it.
Remigio's Amigos, the three Remigios. That's the headspace to be in. We can take submissions riffing off that throughout the rest of the show today, but that's huge. That we got there. Thank you, Alan and company.
Yeah, huge for the program. Whacker Jace has been loving the show for the last few years. Thank you. Thanks, guys, for your commitment to content in the summer to keep us going between seasons. We try our best because there's not a lot of content, so we try our best to.
Did you hear the 3 minutes we just did on rhyming Remigio?
We're trying our best out here. We're doing our best.
We're at least doing.
I do think, though, Nico Remigio has a better chance of actually doing something productive for the Chiefs than some of the last few guys who've had that OTA training camp hype. Yeah. I'm not saying he's going for 1,000 yards, but those Justin Ross folk, sorry if you were one of those people, I kind of alluded to it being more like Josh Gordon, where we're talking like pre-COVID player, and we're talking about how electric he was 5 years ago prior to all the injuries, also in college when he had the best quarterback in college throwing him the football. Like, he looked great. He was awesome. But then the injuries happened. It sucks. It really sucks. But I just didn't see it from then on out. I think that was more of, look what he once was a long time ago, not looking at what he could be in the future, right? I think what Nico Remigio has done and has been was last year a guy who was actually knocking on the door of making the 53, and then he got injured, okay? And then all of a sudden this year he's continued. He's continued every little bit of excitement and then some. We were talking with today, it wasn't Matt Derrick.
He's on Fridays.
Yeah. It's been a long day, Brisco.
Was today Tuesday?
It was Tuesday. Who do we have on today?
Having Cynthia Freeland on?
She's not on today, but we're trying to get her on this week. Yeah, Cynthia Freeland's not on yet, but we're getting close. It doesn't matter. Maybe it was yesterday.
You know what would help? Hey, can I say something very funny? No, I'm going to hold this for later. You should finish your point. I don't want to, it will derail it completely, and I have some serious questions.
Okay, my point is, it was Lebo actually today. At camp and everything, everything that Remigio has done has brought his name more to the forefront. It's not just hype unfounded because it's a fun story. It's because everything he's done at camp, again, not a lot of pads, I get all that stuff, but he's made plays. He's been involved in all of these things. So I think there's actually smoke behind the fire and not just look at that, it's a little s'more over there. Let's try and make that s'more into a full meal.
There's something really interesting about comparing Remigio and Justin Ross. Obviously, they're the two guys of these two off seasons, and we'll see. I mean, like, Remigio has to also do it in training camp when there are fans there and there are pads on and all of that. And we'll see. There's a world in which Remigio is not demanding attention 2 weeks into camp, and we're all like, oh, okay, a little premature there. Which for me goes directly into what I think is the most obvious difference between Remigio and Ross, which also really informs the conversation we're having about them now. Nico Remigio on Pro Football Reference is listed at 5'9", 187. I'll take the under. I'll take the under on maybe both of those at the moment. So when Remigio ends up in pads going up against Trent McDuffie, who's not a big man, but is a strong man at his position, or the long corners that the Chiefs have on the outside right now, we'll see if Remigio can actually create separation in a way that gets him open there. All of that to say, though, that's a side point to the fact that Nico Remigio and Justin Ross are borderline opposite wide receivers. And I think that informs both the hype and the concern for me on both sides. Justin Ross made total sense to have a larger than expected role in this offense in a best case scenario, because the Chiefs don't have anybody else like him on the roster, and maybe they never will, because they don't seem to want that type of player outside of as an undrafted free agent you can take a shot on. With Remigio, you can say, oh, well, he's more of a Chiefy type of player. He is an Andy Reid, small little quick wide receiver that we've seen have success before, maybe in like an Albert Wilson kind of mold, which I think makes sense. But you could say, oh, there's familiarity with that role there. But there are also 4 guys in front of him who fill a lot of those, who check a lot of those same boxes. So I don't think either of those are definitively ending the conversation. It's just all of the stuff that kind of baked in makes it so fascinating to see the hype for Ross and Remigio, 2 totally different types of wide receivers. One who had an open path and a role the Chiefs didn't really use that much, and Remigio now in a much busier path that the Chiefs have players there all the time. And Mango said in the comments, like, and listen, Mango, you've been hitting like 900 in the comments today, so I'm not trying to pick on you. Because Remigio should get Rice's slot snaps during the suspension, in my opinion. I don't think the Chiefs are thinking about that 1% right now. I would be my starting point. I think they would love for Nico Remigio to be wide receiver 5 the back end of the season. I think that has to be. It's why I'm throwing a wet blanket on this a little bit, because time and time again, the Chiefs have shown us, and most of the NFL has shown us, that the established kind of boring option, in this case, Sky Moore, Kadarius Toney, Justin Watson, different type of player, but those guys often get when it comes down to it, we got to make a choice, A or B. Teams typically go to the guys who have done it before on some level, or the guys with a higher ceiling, which I think you can argue. Ceiling exclusively, Tony has on Remigio, and Sky Moore flip a coin, but they invested more in Sky Moore. Not me. That's not me arguing for his value right now, but it's just so fascinating because it's so different from Ross, but he's so similar to a lot of the things that Chiefs love from their receivers.
And I also think that I've grown and I've become good cough there. Way to hit the cough button.
I really had to hit the post there to toggle the button, get out and hack one up again.
That was impressive. The boring, and maybe boring's the wrong word. The floor versus ceiling. I don't think Remigio's ceiling, because of his size and all that stuff. Like it's not Cooper Kupp out there, right? It's not a guy that size who's going to go out there and just do something insane. But
if it is Albert Wilson, you'll take that 100 times in a row. Absolutely.
Because I think he is a easier path to the field. Justin Ross, while being a different wide receiver, a different style, didn't have a great path. That was his only path, because he wasn't going out there on special teams and making a massive impact. I think, as we've heard from Dave Tobe, well, Nico Remigio might be getting out there early and on the field, and that's how he can get on the field and make an impact, unlike a guy like Justin Ross. And so for me, the older I've gotten, the more I've tried to stop being enamored with ceiling and try to appreciate the floors of guys. It's why players like Mike Dana are so valuable, while the Tano Passignos and the Joshua Kandos are so exciting and tantalizing. You look at the arm length and the size and the speed. It's great, but they can't see the field. Mike Dana, he's probably already at a ceiling. He's probably already there, but you know what you're going to get. And for some reason, 4.5 sacks, 5 sacks, 6 sacks. It's not sexy. It's not exciting. His body type is not going to sit here and wow you. How he beats. Whoa.
Rude.
It wows me. Okay, if I had that body type, I would never wear a shirt.
Yeah, I'd be wowed by myself.
Yeah. The point is, compared to some of these other edge rushers who are a lot more lankier, longer, stronger, all that stuff. Even Karlaftis is why I wanted the Chiefs to draft Karlaftis. This was me evolving. Right? Because Karlaftis, I think, had a higher ceiling than people gave credit for just because he was so young, coming from just all these things. But he was a high floor guy. It wasn't one of those dudes like a Boye Mafe or a guy who's like, oh, wow, look at that body type. He's going to be a stud if he hits his ceiling. But how many guys actually hit their ceiling? And so the older I've gotten, the more I've almost gone with, and I've noticed with Tampa Bay and with the Dodgers to an extent in baseball.
I don't really watch baseball anymore.
Okay, I'll use Tampa Bay because I think this is the best example because they're not a team that spends a lot of money. If you look at their roster, they're not a team that has a whole bunch of superstars. But they also don't have a lot of guys in their lineup that are complete and utter negatives, which is kind of hard in baseball. Look at the Royals. I love the Royals. They're a playoff team right now. They got about 2 or 3 guys on any given night. You're like, oh my gosh, that's not good. Look at the bullpen. Oh my gosh, that's not good. The Rays, historically speaking, not this year, but historically speaking, they just said, we're not going to have the superstars, but we're not going to have any net negatives. We're going to have a whole bunch of floor guys, a whole bunch of guys who are above average. And the Chiefs, to an extent, have done that. Even McCole Hardman, whatever your thoughts are on her, no, McCole is not DK Metcalf, but he's not Andy Isabella, right? So they still, to an extent, quote, hit on that pick. They still got value from that pick. And that's what makes the Chiefs so draft smart. They find ways to get value from players in positions and anywhere in the draft that a lot of teams just don't. How many complete and utter whiffs do they have? Again, people will bring up McCole. Wasn't a complete and utter whiff. Sky Moore, maybe. Breland Speaks,
Edwards-Helaire
yes.
with
But for Clyde, he even got a second contract.
And Felix, maybe. He got a 1-year second.
No, I get it. Hey, that pick sucked. First round running back, you and me, same page, guy. Horrible. But to say he's been a complete and utter net negative, he hasn't been good. But to say
he was in the position they drafted him. I think you're onto something, but it's not binary, right? Like, it's not just hit ceiling, hit floor, middle of the ground. Good comment from Joshua Zilster. So that's why my wife married me. It wasn't about the hypothetical ceiling, but how high my floor is. Keep those floors up, fellas. Good work out there. It matters on when you take those swings, right? Later in the draft, and now Dana's a fascinating one because he was a 5th round pick who was also kind of a floor guy, and that's really hard to find later in the draft. He still exceeded, I think, what most teams thought his ceiling was. But again, it's on a curve, right? Your like type with Dana, I think you're right on, as opposed to Josh Kano, a 4th round pick the year after that. To build a championship football team, you have to have both, right? Like Chris Jones was a ceiling pick. Patrick Mahomes was a ceiling pick. Travis Kelce was a ceiling pick. You need all of those guys to hit. Trent McDuffie was a little bit of a ceiling pick, but it was different because it was a premium pick there. Karlaftis, I'm with you on that. Sky Moore was, we're betting on what he will be at the NFL level, not what he was in an SEC school or anything. Nope, we are doing a ton of projecting for Sky Moore. Nick Bolton and Creed Humphrey were both we're saying, hey, these aren't super valuable positions, but we think we're going to get good players here. And they were able to do that, obviously. Willie Gay was a ceiling pick that was like, I don't know, a single on the scale of getting on base because he's not here on a second contract. And he didn't ever become one of these teams' fully trusted early starting linebackers, at least not from Spags. L'Jarius Sneed and all of the corners, really, aside from McDuffie, those are all like development picks, betting on your system and finding the traits. Those are ceiling picks, upside picks in a way, right? So it's always a dance there of figuring out how do you stabilize the right positions and maximize the other ones? I can't remember even how we got started on who I guess it was with the receivers. I want to have ceiling guys after I know who my top 3 are. You know what I mean? Like if you are going to say it's probably why I'm still open to Kadarius Toney in 2024 is if you say, hey, wide receiver 5, Sky Moore, Kadarius Toney, who do you want? Right now, I'd take Kadarius Toney because Sky Moore has not shown me any of that pop. I've seen the pops from Kadarius Toney. Now, sometimes the pop is in his knee or the ball coming off of his hand.
He took. Yeah, that was my joke. Was the ball popping off of his hand?
Yeah, no, I mean that's all totally fair and valid, but Darian Kennard was a ceiling pick because they were like, well, maybe we can use a 5th round pick to make this dude a tackle, and it didn't work. Isaiah Pacheco was a ceiling pick because it was, hey, we'll take this dude that has like an amazing motor in the 7th round and see if he can be an NFL running back, and he can. It's always going to be a mix of all of those things, but I think when you're doing specific roster evaluation, yeah, I feel pretty good about the top few spots on this wide receiving core when Rice is back. So then after that, like let's find out what the rest of these dudes can do. And they're going to keep McCole Hardman because of his floor, to be clear. Like that's if McCole Hardman's on the team and Nico Remigio isn't, or Sky Moore isn't, or Kadarius Toney isn't, it's going to be because they think they can trust McCole Hardman and in the parlance that we're using here, his floor.
What's funny is McCole was almost drafted for his ceiling, and then it turns out he's kept around for his floor. Some names, I think Nick Allegretti, a lot of the offensive line, some of those draft picks, I think you can make the case for Wanye Moore as a 3rd-round tackle, right? That's more or less your floor, while Kingsley Suamataia, your 2nd-round guy who has a lot of upside, that might be your ceiling pick to an extent, if you will. Michael Donegan says our continuity is our culture of winning, starting from the top, Big Red. And even Clark Hunt to an extent. I mean, the ability to keep all of the coaching staff for the most part, almost year after year after year. You saw what the Eagles went through last year and how much they struggled, especially defensively. New DC, new OC, Jalen Hurts took a step back. The continuity, I think, is a very good aspect of what keeps the Chiefs winning year after year. Waghoba says LDT, Derek Noddy. Yeah, exactly. Those are floor guys to an extent, right?
I disagree on LDT. They drafted a doctor from Canada in the 6th round. He hit his freaking ceiling, and his ceiling was higher than his floor should have been. I think LDT is not. I do not think he is a floor guy. I think that was a late round investment that popped off. Trey Smith too, because Trey Smith, everything's good now, so we can make a joke. I think Trey Smith's floor was him dying playing football. You know what I mean? Like that was the concern on a medical level for Trey Smith. His ceiling is being a top 1/3 of the league guard who's going to get paid by somebody next offseason. So again, like that's it. It changes based off of when you make that pick, right? That's why I think the scale there changes.
All right. You can make that joke because you have diabetes and you almost died doing radio. Yeah.
It was true, though. That was the concern with Trey Smith was, can he play football without having a medical emergency that's gonna freak everybody out? And obviously, the Chiefs got good intel on that, and they've delivered an incredible plan. Now he's a great football player. Like that's kind of a ceiling pick, but it's as a flyer in the 6th round, so you're throwing darts. Again, this also is a conversation we could have in free agency. Sure. In terms of where you want to invest money, that might be even more telling than in the draft, because I think once you get past the 3rd round, everybody's kind of playing Calvin ball in the draft.
I started with wide receivers and basically defensive linemen, and I think it's a good point though, because it's a little bit of both, because your cornerbacks for the most part have been ceiling or developmental picks, while I think the Chiefs have done a good job defensive line a lot of times going with more of the floor guys. And again, not always.
Because they have a guy who busted through his own ceiling in Chris Jones.
Yeah.
Right, you can afford to do that.
Yeah. It's a fun conversation like that.
It's good. I love a little roster building talk. You got to have ceiling guys at your core, and then you should put some floor guys around them, and you've got a championship football team. If and when you have the greatest quarterback to ever live, all of that gets easier.
Yeah. Oh, good question. Before we go to the ring ceremony and give just some quick thoughts on that, I like this from Keeping It Real, Who Dat Sports Podcast. Good afternoon, gentlemen. Can you please give a quick breakdown of Willie Gay? Why was he not a bigger impact of the defense?
Piecing this all together, this is a question coming from New Orleans, where Willie Gay is now. I was like, Who Dat Sports Podcast? Willie Gay. You can go first. I got takes, but I'm going to clear my throat again.
I think the upside and the ceiling, as we're talking about, was phenomenal. You saw glimpses of greatness at times from Willie Gay. He missed time with a suspension, missed time with injury. He didn't play a ton in college because of injuries. So he's never a guy who's been consistently out there, which I think which is why you saw a lot of inconsistency. And also how the Chiefs' defense is typically operating. You only have 2 linebackers on the field at the same time. So a lot of the time, that meant Willie Gay Jr. was the odd man out. We were told year after year he's great in pass coverage. And then it felt like in pass coverage year after year, we're like, wait, really? He is? And then last year was the first year we're like, okay, no, yeah, he really is great in pass coverage. It just took a while for that to really take hold. I really like Willie Gay Jr. The Chiefs have invested so much in the linebacker position, they were not going to pay Willie Gay Jr. Drew Tranquill is a much more complete linebacker. Nick Bolton is the green dot. Leo Chenal is a second-round linebacker. I think they like Cam Jones / Jack Conklin to an extent as their backups. There wasn't a real room or need to pay a lot of money for a linebacker who might not see the field a ton. I like Willie Gay Jr. in a nutshell, but the inconsistencies to me almost will be remembered the most by Chiefs Kingdom, more so than just the highlights.
Yeah, and that's interesting because, I mean, they could have made keeping Willie Gay a priority. Like, it's not like they paid Drew Tranquill a ton of money last offseason and then couldn't move around, right? Or that they'd already paid Nick Bolton. They still haven't. So they could have made him a priority. It was always very clear, even to Willie Gay, who was tweeting about it during the season, late in the playoffs. Willie Gay knew he wasn't coming back. I think the biggest reason Willie Gay didn't play more is also one of the biggest reasons the Chiefs are back-to-back champions, and it's one of the reasons that I think he could be better in New Orleans than he was here. Steve Spagnuolo. That is he is a tremendous net positive to this football team. One of the greatest defensive coordinators of all time. I have a t-shirt that says "In Spags We Trust" with him going like this on it. You will not find a bigger Spags fan. You won't find many bigger Spags fans around these parts than me. But with what he asks from his linebackers, it's kind of the same reason we saw Dan Sorensen out there playing safety for an extra year than he should have been, maybe a year and a half, because he was able to trust Sorensen in that role, who also ended up in New Orleans, didn't he? Sorry, Saints fans. That wasn't on purpose.
And
you know really stinks? Colin Saunders. Wow, there's a lot of them. I like Colin Saunders a lot. That was but yes, Tano Passanio as well.
Tyrann Mathieu.
A lot. Holy bleep, a lot of former Chiefs in the New Orleans defense. Is that working for them? I don't know. Of the guys we just mentioned, Colin Saunders definitely still good at football.
Tyrann Mathieu was pretty good the past couple of years. His first year in New Orleans was solid.
Yeah, so good luck with that. But with Willie Gay, with Steve Spagnuolo, to put a pin on, or to put a bow on that, Spags loves Nick Bolton, a worse athlete than Willie Gay, but a guy who he trusts to process everything going on defensively, both in terms of what the Chiefs need to do on a given snap, what the offense is showing, getting everybody lined up, all of those things. Now, Drew Tranquill can also do that. And frankly, Drew Tranquill did it better than Nick Bolton did last year, as they both kind of shared that role when Bolton was out due to injury. It's true, Mizzou hat. You know it's true. So I think it's telling that the Chiefs invested in Bolton and paid Tranquill and let Willie Gay walk, in large part because, as you said, Sterling, if you've got 2 linebackers on the field, it felt like it was almost never Willie Gay by choice being one of those 2 guys. And that was confusing to me because he is a tremendous athlete. And I think even when he does have a mental mistake, or he's not the guy that you want processing everything, or whatever it may be, whatever the, at this point, kind of like trite way of talking about Willie Gay's career in Kansas City, even if you do see one of those missteps, his speed and athleticism allows him to recover in a way that most linebackers in the sport cannot do. So I was surprised by how little he signed for. I would have absolutely been willing to give him that deal if I'm New Orleans. I would have considered it from the Chiefs standpoint, depending on how radical you let me be with a linebacker group, because I don't want them to give Nick Bolton a market-setting contract for a middle linebacker. I do not think that would be good business. So I think that Willie Gay deserves more credit than he got for a lot of his time in Kansas City. I think he'll be good in New Orleans.
Yeah, I also think New Orleans linebacker core is very not similar to Kansas City, but they have good linebackers in DeMario Davis. That's almost like their Nick Bolton. Pete Warner, who I think is really going to take a step forward, and then Willie Gay Jr. I think Pete Warner is almost like their Drew Tranquill. So I actually like the New Orleans linebacker core a lot now that they added Willie Gay Jr. 2 comments to get to. One quick one. Go for KC Forever says, I thought that was you, Josh. Is everyone going to be there for Weird Games? You guys are a great show. They are a great show. Josh is doing both, so don't you worry. You just get double Brisco.
And we are all back, as I think part of the question there is that Seth was in Italy for a couple of shows. Nate was flying back from D.C. when he went to the Chiefs White House Day. I was traveling around Arizona. So today, about 4:30, call it 4:40, over on the KC Sports Network YouTube channel. We'll be live, all three of us here. And that means every Tuesday you get a double dose of Brisco if you like it.
Yeah. Rob Miller, thank you. Appreciate that super chat a lot. Thank you so much for that. Says, do you think a vet left tackle is on the books before or during camp? It's a really good question. Brisco and I actually were kind of talking about that a little bit beforehand. I think an interesting name that I want to bring up today, just because he spoke yesterday or today, was it to Adam Schefter, and that's David Bakhtiari. Basically saying he thinks he's got a couple more years left. Now, what is he going to say? I think I'm washed. But he did say he was waiting to sign until he felt like he was completely healthy and ready to go. Also probably means he does not want to go to OTA's minicamp and potentially parts of training camp. I get that. There's a lot of things players will say to get out of certain things that they do not want to do. But David Bakhtiari is a very interesting name because you saw what Tyron Smith got. Tyron Smith, All-Pro, injured. He got a massive contract with the Jets. Now, David Bakhtiari has All-Pro, but he's been injured longer. I don't know what his market is going to look like, but if I had one name, I'd look at Bakhtiari before I'd look at maybe I'm wrong, Donovan Smith, which again is almost going against everything I said with floor versus ceiling guys.
I'm so glad we're here, though. This is a perfect way to spin that into a free agent conversation. Great question from Rob. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to be as over the top superlative with this as possible. And maybe it'll be a funny clip in 6 weeks when they sign him. I've never been more confident that the Chiefs are not interested in a player that a lot of the fan base is interested in than with David Bakhtiari. I would be floored, not shocked, not tased, but I would be floored if they signed David Bakhtiari. Number of reasons, many of which we talked about earlier. We're gonna get there, Stu. Bakhtiari has played 13 games in the last 3 seasons, and someone should sign him. Somebody should give him a shot and have a backup plan to say, hey, if he plays 6 games, we know that's a possibility, but that's what we're here paying for. That will not be the Chiefs, and that will not be the Chiefs' problem because that's not where they are right now. If the Chiefs are questioning their left tackle battle, and I don't think it's going to be before camp, I think they're going to really, frankly, I think Kingsley is probably starting week 1, and I think the second most likely week 1 starter is Wanya Morris, and the third most likely left tackle starter is Donovan Smith. But I think I think it's Kingsley, and then a break, and then Wanya, and a break, and then Donovan Smith. And then after that, I'm not willing to take bets on any other left tackles, because if they get to camp and Kingsley looks like a rookie we're betting on ceiling and he's not ready yet, and Wanya is out there and he's super inconsistent, some of the issues you saw last year, some decent highs, but some concerning lows. If that's what the Chiefs see, they should call Donovan Smith and say, hey, you were waiting on us. We were waiting on you, baby. Let's get back together. Let's do this thing one more time. Because the consistency would be the problem. It's the consistency of the rookie, the consistency of the second-year player. Can Patrick Mahomes rely on you to protect his blind side? I still think it's more likely than not that Kingsley or Wanya will get that job because they will be even still more consistent than a 2024 Donovan Smith would be. So that's why I think the answer to the original question is no. I don't think it's going to happen at all. But I really don't think it's Bakhtiari because his ceiling might be all-pro football player. But his floor is that he plays 4 snaps like Aaron Rodgers did last year, and then there's some other disastrous injury, and now you're trotting back out who? Your rookie who just lost all of his first-team training camp snaps to the veteran who's not playing anymore. I think they're going to give all those reps to Kingsley and Wanya until they have lost all hope. I don't think that's going to happen. I don't think the hope will be lost. But they're going to give all those 2 guys all the reps they can, try to find themselves a starter on a rookie contract, and let the veterans come and go. I feel very strongly about it, and I've thought about it a lot. So maybe they will, sign Bakhtiari in 15 minutes, and I'll have egg on my face. But I think it's a fascinating spot. It's a great question. But I think it's going to be the young guns.
I think it's the young guns, especially during training camp. I think they'll get a real good, strong look at those 2 dudes. The one pushback I have, I think Donovan Smith is a fine left tackle. I think Wanya Morris this upcoming season is going to be about on par with Donovan Smith last year. I don't know why we're all acting like a rookie left tackle who got beat by Khalil Mack last year is all of a sudden an abject disaster. Like he was fine last year. I thought Wanya Morris, for the most part, was fine last year. I really did. Now, I know PFF, and we can all take it with a grain of salt. I've looked this up multiple times. I think he actually graded out higher than Donovan Smith did last year. Again, take it with a grain of salt.
Probably run blocking influence that way too.
Sure.
I think Smith was probably a higher pass blocking.
Sure. Point is, I think you almost have a floor guy in Wanya this upcoming season. People will laugh at me for that. I'm fully. I think
that's reasonable. That's also what I'm saying. To be clear, I think Kingsley is your ceiling guy, and he's starting. I think you're saying if you believe that Wanya Morris could start 6 games for you again next year, you don't need to add a veteran here.
That's my point, because I believe in Wanya Morris. I think that we all keep looking at the lows of last year, and we're stuck on those. Those are lows of a rookie left tackle against Khalil Mack. He got his ass kicked. How many left tackles last year got their ass kicked by Khalil Mack? They can all raise their hand because they all did. Like, he's going to progress. I've said time and time again, I firmly believe this. Edge rushers and tackles on offense, that's the biggest jump you'll see from college to rookie. They're going to struggle rookie year. And then rookie to their sophomore year, their second year in the NFL, I think you see the biggest jump. We saw it with Andrew Thomas, and people are tired of me saying that. Giants fans wanted Andrew Thomas run out of town. Now he's all pro. It takes time. That's a top 5 guy.
But also, to be fair, like the Chiefs also obviously don't think Wanya Morris is going to be a top 5 guy because they drafted Kingsley.
No. And I think Wanya Morris. I think Wanya Morris long-term fits in best as the swing tackle / right tackle when Juwan Taylor's contract's up. That's where I think is best case scenario. But for this upcoming season, I think if he was your left tackle, the Chiefs are fine. I think they're fine with him at left tackle. Is he an all-pro? No. Will he be serviceable? Yes. Yes, I do. And that's the reason why I would say you almost have the ability, if you wanted to, go after a guy like David Bakhtiari because you have a guy that you trust on the back end. That's my personal opinion. If I didn't trust Wanya Morris, I would say Donovan Smith. But the fact that I do trust Morris would allow me to say a guy like David Bakhtiari who does have the all-pro upside, I'd be okay with. But again,
listen, you had a pretty good line earlier about Justin Ross and somebody else about pre-COVID upside that we're talking about. Again, that was in 2020 when David Bakhtiari was an all-pro and a Pro Bowler, and he played 12 games.
I'm an idiot. I can't quit you, David.
He played 25. He's played 25 games in the last 4 seasons and 13 in the last 3.
I can't quit you, David. David Bakhtiari. I'm just saying.
You really, I think maybe add a syllable to Bakhtiari.
Yeah, I don't know really how to say his last name. So, David, I probably don't like you that much. But
Bakhtiari. I think it's just Bakhtiari.
Yeah, I probably don't like him that much. But I like him enough because I think it makes sense.
I don't. How about that? Feud, disagreement,
Family
sports
feud.
Radio, sports television, baby. We disagree on a topic.
All right, Chiefs get the rings. Any thoughts there before we play this or that? You have any strong thoughts on the ring ceremony? My only main thought is it's cool because the players and owners, for the most part, they get the Super Bowl to celebrate, they get the parade to celebrate, and they get the ring ceremony to celebrate. Because a lot of the other time, while fans are having fun, the players are looking forward to next season. They're looking forward almost immediately. You think Andy Reid is sitting here still celebrating, polishing that? He's like, I'll go on vacation, and I'm taking the playbooks with me. I'm going to watch some 1937 Yale football and see what I can glean from this. Like,
if they wanted Andy Reid to wear a Super Bowl ring, they would put some Yale highlights on the inside when the ring opens up so we could just watch that like on the plane or something. Where there's something to that. That might be next year. Maybe they put a video player in there. I like that.
That's a good idea. But for me, I think it's a really cool thing for all the players to get together. A lot of guys that left, like Willie Gay Jr., MVS coming back. I thought, honestly, Nick Allegretti was maybe my favorite guy that we heard from was Allegretti, and just his comments and what he actually went through to play in the Super Bowl with the torn UCL, knowing right away that he's like, yeah, it's bleeped. Then at halftime, they got the MRI confirmed it, and he's like, well, I got to do it. He goes, it only hurt when you touched it or when it got touched. You're a lineman. I bet it hurt
quite a few times.
Like every play, he's like, yeah, you just gotta like grit your teeth and get it done. I'm like, football guy. That's a football
right
guy.
there, dude. That's football guy. There are several things that I thought were interesting and several things that I don't care about. Hey, you know what I'm over? These 34 rubies represent the 34. Bleep off. No, they don't.
The 19,
no, they don't.
The 19 was 11 AFC West championships and 8 straight AFC West championships.
It's even worse than that, I think.
They had to combine them.
Okay, I've opened up. I had the graphic saved on my desktop over here because I'm a lunatic. The play on the inside, the little confetti thing, that's all fine. 28 diamonds, symbolic of the defense that held every opponent under 28 points. They held every opponent under 25 points. The most points they gave up was Buffalo. Okay, hold on. I didn't think about this till just now. This is the one I'm pissed about. 28 diamonds. I guess they're doing that for the entire season. Never mind.
Yeah.
Fair enough. Not as bad as it could have been.
There's a 55 and stuff in there too. Like a point scored.
One that I really want is not
30. The 30 was it 38 touchdowns scored.
This touchdown scored at home was the one that really made me want to yarts. It's like, come on, like make the ring and make it beautiful, and then just say whatever it is. Like it's fine. But so whatever. Obviously the typo or the error or whatever on the interior of the ring is kind of funny because somebody got paid a lot of money to make sure there were no typos in this thing and to come up with what 38 could mean. And they got the Dolphins seeding wrong. The other thing, I genuinely don't know if you're like, you have a mustache, so you might be sick of this topic, but the fact that Taylor Swift was watching from Liverpool on an Instagram live story or Instagram live feed, commenting her hype about the ring ceremony and then capping it off with, and we get one more year of McCall in all caps was the funniest thing in the world to me, because in all of except for all of the ways in which she's absolutely not like you, she's just like you, Chiefs fans. That cough finally got me. But like, she's watching at ungodly hours, just trying to enjoy the party from the outside like everybody else. And she's hyped for McCall Hardman being back and getting excited for a couple of re-signings of dudes she's met or maybe significant others. I think she was watching the feed on Nicole Hardman's significant others live stream. So maybe that's why that specific shout out was there. But it's just tremendous that the most famous woman in the world also following along the Chiefs ring ceremony like the most diehard Chiefs fans were.
Yeah. Those numbers always will make me laugh because, they put the diamonds in first and they try and decipher what they could or potentially mean. And when you're adding things together to get to the number, not everything needs to be symbolic.
No,
because the damn ring is symbolic of the Lombardi trophy. The damn ring is symbolic of that you just won the Super Bowl.
Put the play on the inside, do your little extra twists every year, have the top come off, have it open, have the little confetti inside the ring or whatever, man. Go for it. I don't need to know what every one of the 200 and whatever stones means. I think
it was 500. There's 505. Rob says, thank you again for the super chat, Rob. Shout out you. Shout out Rob.
Big says, Rob day.
As long as Pat's clean, I'm happy. I couldn't agree more. As long as Pat's clean, I think we're all happy. Before we get to this or that, Price says AA getting Verderam back. Brisco and Sterling in the lineup too. Let's go. Shout out Price. You're a good dude, Price. Love your work. Jerome says, do you think the Chiefs would give the Chiefs a ring, maybe drawing for a season ticket holder? No. They might give him one of
the Chiefs give fans a ring. You read that wrong because reading's never been your strong.
What did I say?
You said, do you think the Chiefs would give the Chiefs a ring?
Yeah, the Chiefs would give the Chiefs a ring, yes. Do I think the Chiefs would give the fans a ring? No, unless they would sell those the non-diamond ones.
Yeah,
right.
The fan versions are available now, I think. I don't know if they come with the free typo or not, though. I'll have to check on that.
Yeah. All right. You ready for this or that? Are we going to do it?
Born ready.
All right. For those of you that do not know, Brisco and I used to do a thing on radio together, and it was called This or That. And we can't have the licensing for the song This or That, so...
That's right. I like this song. This song's a jam.
Whatever my roadcaster's playing right now. Hopefully we don't get dinged for this, but
Not my fault if we do.
we'll play a game. It's called This or That. We did it last week with him, and anytime we have Brisco on, we play a game called This or That. I list a couple things, and he chooses them, basically. All right, This or That. Better chance of making the roster next year, Deneric Prince, Carson Steele, or Keontae Ingram?
Very lightly Keontae Ingram right now, but it's a very good question, and that's like a 30%, 30%, 40% kind of answer for me. I think Steele probably has the longest shot just on account of being brand new, but his vibes are immaculate. Maybe Prince ends up being in the mix, but he just never seemed like he got a serious look last year, even when they did have running back injury issues. So I'm going to go Ingram out of that group, but I have very little confidence.
All right, do you think one of those three guys, or literally anyone else, like a free agent, a training camp cut, someone?
Yeah, I might take the field on that. If you say, hey, you've got Pacheco, Clyde, and then one of those three guys at the field, I might take the field there. I really don't have anybody in mind. I don't think it's Dalvin Cook, but they still need some juice for that group there. And I don't know that any of those three, maybe if one of them pops in training camp, fabulous. We can end the conversation, but I kind of think there might be something left.
Rob is just slanging it right now. Super chat again. Do you think the rings will be fixed or no? Brisco, yay or nay?
I think I saw somebody tweet about this. I don't know if it's real or not, but the idea of like Jostin said that you could send them your ring and they would fix it and send it back to you. It would take a certain amount of time. I don't think the Chiefs are going to like collect them all. Let me flip it back. So I think they probably could get them fixed if they want. Sterling, let me ask you this or that. Would you get your ring fixed if offered by the jewelry company, or would you keep the typo?
No, the typo is way cooler. The typo makes it like it's way more authentic now. Now it's badass. If I ever saw one with a 6, I go, that's a fake.
That's exactly right. You would assume it was fake now if they got the detail correct.
Yeah. All right, you can only keep one. Dave Merritt or Joe Cullen?
I'm gonna go Dave Merritt. I love Joe Cullen. Joe Cullen seems like a blast. Chris Jones loves him. And I think he's more likely to stay, actually, which might be part of my logic there. But Dave Merritt has turned day 3 draft picks into Pro Bowlers and all pros, or at least should be all pros, I guess. And really, really good players. Joe Cullen has continued the progression of good football players. But what Dave Merritt has done, and maybe that's partially Spags too, but what Dave Merritt's done is like maybe unmatched in the sport right now in terms of one specific coach doing that much for his position group. But it's a good question.
The Who or Rolling Stones?
I guess I feel like I've got more of the Who energy, but I've probably listened to more Stones. I was listening to a little bit of the White Album, Little Beatles earlier today. That was my little throwback soundtrack dip in today.
Nice. All right, starting right tackle in 2025 will be starting right tackle, not this year, in 2025 will be who?
Isn't it like definitely Jawan Taylor? Let me look at. I'm pulling up his contract right now, so I can answer this.
More or less, yes, but
No. It's Jawan Taylor. At my life, whatever. Yeah.
Okay. Better chance of
non-binding life betting. Again, I say stuff on podcasts sometimes, and my actions have consequences. I wouldn't bet my life on it, but I'd bet $25 that his $25 million cap hit isn't going anywhere.
Yeah. By the way, Brisco has to get tased at some point. Still has not happened.
Seth to do it.
He's a poser. Custard or
Seth
ice
is the
cream?
poser. Say that again.
Custard or ice cream?
Ice cream, but it's all give me some frozen goodness. You know what? Hot take. Ice cream. I need ice cream with chunks in it now. Life's too short to be eating just vanilla or just chocolate or just anything. I'm not like a huge Jimmy Fallon fan or anything, but the Tonight Dough, Ben & Jerry's, creme de la creme.
Yeah, I've been eating a lot of custard recently. Beer or liquor?
Andy's is custard, right? I mean,
yeah, I go to Andy's all the time. I've been hitting up Andy's so late at night to the doors off the Jeep, and every single night I'm like, hey, babe, let's go to Andy's.
That's a great call. 51-49. It's all delicious to me.
Beer or liquor?
Liquor, personally.
Hardly know her. All right. More important to their success, to their team's success, Jaylen Brown or Jason Tatum?
You want to know something crazy, man? I watched so little NBA playoffs this year after the Suns made it easy for me to check out for a little while. Probably still Tatum, I guess, but I thought it was kind of fun that Brown won the MVP. I do not have a serious take. I can ask Beards if you want.
And I don't know who knows Beards on this show. I don't know how many listeners know the throwback RIP.
There's some crossover
Beards.
for sure. There's some
Beards.
regulars who I definitely know Beards.
Yeah. All right, finally, better chance of making the team, Nico Remigio or Louis Rizamet? And I believe it was confirmed to be Lewis now, right? It's Lewis, not Luis. It's Louis Rizamet. Yeah.
That's so hard. We haven't seen them play football in shoulder pads yet, man. I haven't seen either of those dudes do anything.
Yeah, baby.
I'm going to go Lewis. Narrowly. Very narrowly. I think the Chiefs are going to keep Kadarius Toney over Nico Remigio, and I think Chiefs Twitter is going to be a wasteland. I think Nico will make the practice squad, but I think Twitter will be a wasteland while that happens. And the running back room is so thin. If Lewis could get any carries, I don't think he can. If he get any carries in year one, it'd be a win. But I think I'm going Lewis special teams weapon, I guess. Good question. Baby. Hard question.
That's the why we end on that one. We end on the hard questions. We ask the hard questions. This
we
is the
end hard.
Addict. We get hard on this show.
Do we?
Shout out to everyone who was hanging out with us, listening. Give us a like. Give us a thumbs up. Subscribe if you wouldn't mind. Wherever you get your podcast, leave us a review. Hopefully it's 5 stars. We do really appreciate that. And we always appreciate the super chats as well as all the members who are in the Discord. Brisco, I really enjoy doing this with you, and you can follow him on the X at JB Brisco. You can follow me on Twitter. I guess it's the same thing. At Homestretch KC. You can listen to Brisco coming up in just a few minutes, I believe.
30 minutes over on the KCSN YouTube channel. We call this the pregame now for my Only Weird Games run with Nate Taylor and Seth Kaiser. Again, 4:30, 4:35, 4:40. I don't know. I'll be there at 4:30, and we'll get the gang back together there over on KCSN.
So thank you for everyone. Check out KCSN and Brisco over there. Until next time, we are out.